Hello there. I'm Tommy. Welcome to Blitz Transmissions. This is the Blitzcast, episode 13. Before we get into the content of this episode, as always, if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. Make sure to check out my social media, all of which is linked in the description below. That's going to be an Instagram page. I have another Instagram page called Blitz Bounties, not to be confused with my Blitz Bounties series on the channel. That's a separate Instagram page where I kind of do all my collection updates and pickup updates, things like that. And then I also have an X page for the channel, as well as a Discord. The Discord is free to join. It's like a message board. You can get in touch with our tighter-knit Blitz Brigade community, where you talk daily with other Star Wars fans. It's a lot of fun. The Discord's been very active as of late, and I'm very happy about that and thankful for that. Speaking of thankful, happy belated Thanksgiving to everyone who celebrates or who is in the United States. It is one of my favorite holidays, as I get to eat lots of really yummy food. After recording this, this is Black Friday, recording this now, I'm going to be going to celebrate Thanksgiving with Jen's family, which, speaking of Jen, I should probably mention, why am I by myself again this week? This is a solo adventure for Tommy, once again on the Blitzcast. Jen is not joining me because she has a head cold. She's not feeling 100%, and she's, sniffly, coughing. So say a prayer for Jen, that she gets over this head cold quickly, as her job, like mine, involves a lot of yapping. So for her sake, help her, get a speedy recovery through this head cold. And say a prayer for me as well that I don't catch that, because if I do, you probably won't be seeing much content on the channel while that's happening, because like I mentioned just a minute ago, I do a lot of yapping, and that's pretty much all this channel is me talking. So, hopefully I don't catch that. I've been drinking lots of tea, making sure I take my vitamins, so I don't catch that. But aside from all that, I'm also by myself because I was thinking, maybe I'll grab Logan or my dad or someone, but it ended up not happening because we got dumped on. We probably have gotten hit with a foot of snow where I live right now as of recording this. So I love snow, but I don't like driving in it. So it is what it is. I'm just going to be riding it solo today. We have a topic for this week's podcast, however. It's something that I wanted to get into, something I wanted to talk about. And that is the topic of, a lot of misinformation that's going on with the Ahsoka series for season 2 right now. So I kind of want to lay things out, give you guys a timeline. If you're not familiar, I'm kind of catching you up to speed on what's going on the, behind the scenes aspect of Star Wars for the Ahsoka series. So Ahsoka Season 1 came out. It was a huge cliffhanger. Sadly, we had Ray Stevenson, the actor who played Baylan Skoll in the series, passed away before Season 1 aired. There was a little memoriam posted at the end of the first episode for him. I thought it was very fitting. I thought it was very touching that they did something like that. With this season 1, like I said, they did a huge cliffhanger, bringing in a huge plot point that has not been touched since Star Wars Rebels, that being the idea of the Mortis gods, the Father, the Daughter, and the Son. So I would definitely recommend, if you want to get caught up on them, we can kind of talk about it a little bit here. Definitely watch, there's an arc of the Clone Wars. I'm not sure if it's season 3 or season 4. It's a 3 or 4 episode arc about the Mortis gods. Basically, in this arc, I'll explain it for you so you guys can be completely up to date. If you're not familiar with the Mortis gods, Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan are on a Jedi shuttle. They're supposed to rendezvous with Captain Rex and the fleet. Then they get sucked into this obelisk of some sort, and they get pulled into this world between worlds, is literally the best way to put it, which is called Mortis. And there are some gods there that control the Force. So the Son is representative of the dark side, the daughter of the light side, and then the Father is the balance between them. He is the one who kind of keeps them both in check, keeps them under control, so there's not an imbalance between the light and the dark. However, the Father is getting old. He's losing his power. the sun is getting stronger, the dark side is getting stronger, and the father is worried that the dark side is going to take over. So the father brings specifically Anakin there. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka kind of just got caught in the mix to replace him. Anakin is the chosen one. That's his job, is to replace the father and bring balance to the Force. Anakin obviously doesn't want to do that because of his, worldly desires, like his wife, his Padawan, his life, his brother Obi-Wan. And it becomes a whole adventure where, the sun does, for a little bit, take over. Anakin turns to the dark side for a little bit there. And it's a really, really good arc. It's very, very lore heavy. If you're a big Star Wars fan, if you're big into theology and things like that, you will really enjoy that arc of the Clone Wars. It's one of the best in the entire series, in my opinion. Now, looking at the Mortis gods, we then saw them in the Star Wars Rebels series, where Ezra is on Lothal. It's in season 4, him and Sabine. There's some sort of excavation going on the planet. Ezra is able to enter the world between worlds, and he saves Ahsoka from certain death when she's fighting Darth Vader on, I think, is it Malachor? Because I always get mixed up because there's a Sith planet in the Clone Wars that Yoda goes to in Season 6. I think that one is called Moraban, and then I think the one in Rebels is called Malachor. They're both Sith planets. They have very similar names, but they are not the same planet. So anyway, Yoda goes to, I think, Moraban and explores the dark side, but Malachor in Rebels is where Ahsoka and Vader fight, and you have this idea that they both walk away from the fight at the end of the episode, and I think that was season 2. But then when you get to season 4, you see why Ahsoka survived the fight. She actually was going to die. So the Mortis gods, so now the daughter, which is the Morai, the owl that Ahsoka always has with her in Rebels after this fight, this owl is representative of the daughter. Morai is its name. And it basically keeps Ahsoka alive. Until Ahsoka is no longer needed from the Force, then the Morai will stay with Ahsoka. So we see Morai on Peridia, which is a huge thing. How would Morai possibly get there when we saw her on, what's that planet called? Corvus, I think it is, where the Mandalorian and Grogu meet Ahsoka in The Mandalorian Season 2. And by the way, this is the stuff that I love, where everything is connecting, and I'm able to just spitball tons of Star Wars lore at you. If you're getting bored, let me know, but I'll try not to do it in future episodes. But this is one of my favorite things with Star Wars, is like going through in my head the timeline of how things played out, and it's a lot of fun to just go through. But so after that, we get that cliffhanger. This is what I was getting to. My long-winded explanation. Baylan Skoll is standing on a statue on Peridia, and it's standing on the finger pointing of the father, and then there's a statue of the son flanking him, and then there's a statue of the daughter on the other side. However, the daughter's head has been chopped off. So clearly there's an imbalance of the Force on this planet of Peridia. And the finger is pointing at this light from this mountain. Now, there's been a lot of speculation on what this is. Me personally, I have always been of the opinion that this is the Star Wars canon bringing in a Legends expanded universe concept called Abeloth. Abeloth is a.k.a. the Mother. So a little bit of lore on the Mother from what we know existing from EU stuff is the Mother is a human that consummated with the father, all right? However, the mother became so powerful that she became so power hungry with her greed, being a human, that she started consuming planets and consuming galaxies to satiate her hunger for more power. So the father, the daughter, and the son had to make the collective decision to lock her away and trap her somewhere secret where she could never escape, or else if she was unleashed, she would consume entire galaxies. This is what I think Baylan Skoll is going to do, because there's a couple things. So one, Shin Hati's design eerily looks like a lot of the paintings that we've seen and the sketches we've seen of what Abeloth looks like. I think that in the end, Shin Hati will be possessed by Abeloth as kind of like her maybe conduit is a good word for it. for her to, gain some sort of human form again. I also know that Baylan Skoll from season 1 of Ahsoka, his character is focused on stopping the cycle of power and war. He wants everything to end. He is giving me a very Thanos vibe with his idea. He wants to just destroy everything in order to bring what he thinks is peace. So, looking at all of this, we're left with a huge cliffhanger. We don't know what's going to happen with Baylan Skoll's character moving forward. Ahsoka and Sabine are stuck on Peridea. Ezra makes his way back, but so does Thrawn. So clearly, we have a very open-ended ending to this series. As far as numbers go, a lot of self-proclaimed statisticians like to comment on my videos and other people's videos and talk about, Ahsoka didn't, perform well enough, blah, blah, blah. But to me, it shouldn't be about the numbers, and I hope that Disney is kind of figuring that out, that, I'd rather, we as the fan base, would rather a storyline be completed and they just commit to something rather than go about just ending everything because it didn't perform as well as they would have liked. So, all that being said, it was kind of up in the air for a while, and then shortly after Ahsoka Season 1 ended, Dave Filoni shared on social media a sketch of the ending of the first season and let everyone know that a second season of Ahsoka is in the works. I believe it's filming right now. I believe they're in the process of filming and editing and things like that, because Ahsoka is going to be, the Star Wars series that comes out for 2026. So it's going to be 2026 is going to be a pretty big year because you're going to get the Ahsoka series and tentatively the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So we're going to really be moving along on this Mandoverse, timeline that we find ourselves in. And I'm a big fan of that. Now, looking at what they're doing with season 2, this is where I want to get into like the misinformation here. So it did come out that Baylan Skoll is going to be recast. I'm glad they decided to recast the character rather than just, eliminating the character altogether when he was one of the best parts of the series, in my opinion, as well as being better than deep faking. I could do without the deep faking. I thought it was cool when they introduced it with Luke Skywalker, and they experimented with it differently with Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, with Peter Cushing's likeness. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm more in favor of recasting. As long as you make that person look like the character, I'm gonna buy it. It is what it is. Star Wars has changed actors for characters time and time again. So I'm not going to be upset if they do it with Baylan Skoll. Now, will this actor's performance be able to match Ray Stevenson's performance? I really hope so. The intensity, the line delivery, no one will ever be Ray Stevenson. I believe he was perfect for this role. However, it is what it is. So now we get into some of the misinformation. So recently, some articles have been coming out saying that, and I don't really know why this was news to people, or why these articles were written. Maybe they were just bored and had nothing else to write. But it was coming out that Ahsoka Season 2 will be a fitting ending to the series in case it doesn't get renewed for Season 3. They're going to kind of tie a bow on everything in case. I have multiple thoughts on this, but, first I kind of want to get into the misinformation. So a lot of YouTube videos from your classic, your clickbait, pop culture and Star Wars YouTubers have been coming out saying that Ahsoka was canceled for Season 3, so they're wrapping it up with Season 2. It was my understanding all along that this show was only going to be 2 seasons. I didn't think ever at any point that there was any intention from Lucasfilm or Star Wars or Disney to have a third, fourth, any subsequent seasons after a second one. Ahsoka is just a fold in the Mandoverse storyline. Really, at the core, it's about the Mandalorian and now Thrawn. The Mandalorian and Grogu fighting the Empire. So they're the main characters. Ahsoka is a great supporting role in this, and I'm glad that she's got her own spin-off where we can focus a lot more on her character, especially being a Clone Wars kid myself, and seeing Ahsoka's character in the movie theater when she was first introduced. I've always had a connection to that character, but I think it's probably good if the show ends on a second season. And I kind of wanted to just jump out in front of, the misinformation with this podcast episode and just say, hey, this is not what's going on with this show. There's a lot of thoughts that I have on the why would these news outlets be putting out an article saying that this is what's going to happen with the series. And this is all speculation. That none of this is, proven. It's all dude, trust me. I have this weird feeling that this decision was made to put this news out, quote unquote, because of what happened with The Acolyte. I know that The Acolyte getting canceled after a second season, well, not even a second season. I know The Acolyte getting canceled after its first season, the second season got canceled, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. There was a lot of confusion going on because leading up to the release of The Acolyte, Leslie Headland herself has said, in articles and in interviews, that season 1 will tie a nice bow on everything, and it will, be a good conclusion in case the show doesn't get renewed for a second season, which is very similar to what I'm hearing now. But then you watched The Acolyte, and it was such an open-ended ending. I would argue even more so than the Ahsoka series was, because at least with the Ahsoka series, it's all the characters with open endings are in a different galaxy, and all the characters that are in the current Star Wars galaxy, they can still have their stories continued in other Star Wars, series and movies. Whereas with The Acolyte, you brought in like Darth Plagueis and Grandmaster Yoda, and now we just don't know what's going to happen with any of this. So I'm very interested to see what happens going forward with the Ahsoka series, because I think a lot of that came from this announcement, this news, quote unquote, came from the Acolyte debacle. I think there was just a lot of bad taste left in people's mouths after what happened with the Acolyte, because we just found ourselves in a position where I personally, I felt like I was lied to. I felt like I was misled, because this whole time I was being told, okay, this show is going to conclude nicely, and then we'll get into season 2 if we get a season 2. But then once it got announced that season 2 wasn't even coming out, and then I have some insider info on season 2. It was like, okay, so now you created a story, and these are characters that whether I like them or not, I was still intrigued enough to see a second season of the show. And then, of course, hearing from actors that were in the show, when you go to Comic-Cons and meet them and stuff, right from the actors' mouths that, yeah, they all were told by Disney and Lucasfilm that there wasn't going to be a season 2 before season 1 even was publicly aired, because of the smear campaign that was going on with season 1, which that leads me into a whole different issue about, characters and online faces that are, know nothing about writing and developing and things like that. Essentially being able to call the shots on what gets released and renewed and what doesn't. It's very frustrating on my end as a fan, because I'd rather see a mediocre story come to an end and just get like even a shortened second season that people will still watch. People will still watch it, as opposed to just throwing everything out the window. It's very frustrating, and it's annoying, because now you've kind of emboldened these figureheads, these talking heads on the internet, into thinking that they really have some kind of say, more so than they actually do, and you've just inflated their ego by doing that. Was the show good? I really don't care for The Acolyte. I really didn't think it was a great show. But I still, as a Star Wars fan, I would have liked to have seen a conclusion to the story, not what we got at the end of season 1, which we were told was a conclusion. Anyways, back to Ahsoka. I really am hopeful that the Ahsoka season 2 will actually come to a conclusion. Of course, it's Dave Filoni. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of ambiguous ending where, you could technically still have Ahsoka later on in Star Wars. She just either becomes a hermit or goes into hiding or whatever. But I'm interested to see what Dave does with the show. Ahsoka, at the end of the day, is his baby. I think he's done a great job through and through, all throughout Star Wars, of writing her character, whether it be the Clone Wars, Rebels, you name it, The Mandalorian. I think Ahsoka's character has been very, very consistent and has been a very well fleshed out character. And I have much more faith in Ahsoka season 2 than I do with when I hear things about Ahsoka, because of the people behind it. I feel like this show has a lot more passion behind it, and there's always been a no-touch rule when it comes to Ahsoka's character. Only Dave Filoni works with Ahsoka's character, as far as writing the character goes. So I think that in that way, it also has helped the character to stay very consistent through all these different eras of Star Wars and all these different shows over the decades now. Which is crazy to say. It's been multiple decades since Ahsoka's character has been in existence. That makes me feel old. Which, I guess it's only been 15 years, which still makes me feel so old. It's been 16 years now since the Clone Wars came out. That's a long time. Yeah. Anyways, as I sit here and reminisce on the good old days, I think personally that the Ahsoka series has a lot of potential. I think for me, the Ahsoka series scratched an itch that The Mandalorian doesn't, in a way, with the mysticism and how much new Star Wars creative lore was brought in. More mythical, more mystical stuff was brought in, while we still kept that cool factor in Star Wars, with the fighting and the space battles and all that kind of stuff. I still really enjoyed Ahsoka for all the usual things I enjoy Star Wars for, but, we've brought in a whole new galaxy. We have a whole new planet. We've brought the Mortis gods back into the fold, and these are all original concepts from Dave Filoni. I'm very, very excited to see what happens next for these characters and for this show. As far as, the future of announcements for the show beyond Season 2, I personally, again, I always thought Season 2 was going to be it. I always thought that it was just going to end with Season 2, and that was all we were going to get for the Ahsoka series. I think maybe some characters from the Ahsoka series will show up later on in future content, like what am I thinking of? The Mandalorian and Grogu movie, Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire movie, because, that's something we still have to deal with is Thrawn. We have Thrawn in the main Star Wars galaxy again, with an undead army of stormtroopers, and I'm guessing undead Night Sisters that are being brought back to Dathomir. I think we're in for a treat when it comes to the future Star Wars content, and I'm interested to see how Ahsoka kind of comes into the fold here. Ultimately, we have to eliminate Thrawn altogether, obviously. Thrawn cannot exist. So I don't know if we're going to banish him back to the galaxy where Peridea is, or what we're going to do with his character. However, here's a prediction that I have, just kind of spitballing, for the end of the Ahsoka series. I think ultimately what we're going to see is, so we've seen that the head of Abeloth the head of the daughter statue has been severed, meaning there's an imbalance of the Force here. I think that we're going to need people to stay behind here on Peridea, and I think Ahsoka is ultimately going to have to stay behind on Peridea to be able to hold back Abeloth. And Ahsoka is the embodiment of the light side of the Force in this way. Again, with Morai and all that stuff too. I think Shin Hati is Abeloth. I think Balin's skull is the representation of the dark. He's the one that wants to unleash this power onto the galaxy and destroy everything forever. So I'm interested to see what ends up happening with this show. I think ultimately all these characters, including Ahsoka, I think Sabine will be able to come back to the main galaxy, but I think she will be leaving Ahsoka behind at the end of this storyline, which is, obviously very sad. But I think honestly, it's Ahsoka making the ultimate sacrifice will probably be a tearjerker for me. But it will. I feel like it'd be a fitting end to her story. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments too, because I'd love to bounce ideas back and forth and speculate and theory craft and things like that. Back to the Mandoverse though. I think ultimately we've got a lot going on with the Mandoverse. I think we're going to be seeing more conflict with the pirates. I think the pirates are going to play a pretty major role. We have Skeleton Crew coming up in a week here, which actually I want to cover that real quick too. But we got the pirates, we have the Night Sisters. I'm assuming they're going to break off from Thrawn. There's going to be some sort of betrayal that happens between Thrawn and the Night Sisters, and the Night Sisters will kind of become their own faction. I'm kind of predicting almost like a Battle of the Five Armies type thing going on with the end of this, where Thrawn ultimately loses. I think we'll have the New Republic. I think we'll have the Jedi with, Luke Skywalker coming into the fold, the New Republic with Leia and, probably Han and Chewie at this point. You're going to get all your characters like the Adelphi Rangers, like Carson Teva, Zeb. You'll have the Mandalorians being their own sect, kind of teaming up. You'll have the remnants of the Empire, led by Thrawn. And you're also going to have other characters too. Like you're just going to have maybe we'll see the Skeleton Crew kids in this. You never know, leading some sort of pirate gang or something. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're in for a treat here. We're going to have a lot of familiar faces, I think, which I'm so down for an Avengers style like Star Wars project where it's just a team up of a bunch of awesome characters side by side fighting off, endless hordes of stormtroopers and zombie Night Sisters and things like that. I think we need something fun with Star Wars here. And that's why, perfect lead in here. I'm very excited for Skeleton Crew. I will admit they did it. They pulled me in. I don't know if it's the way they marketed this show. I don't know if it's something unique that they did with it. I'm not sure what's going on outside my window. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But someone is like tapping on something outside. Anyways, it totally threw off my train of thought just now. With the Skeleton Crew, though, it was the trailer started to pull me in. I got all the wave of Black Series figures I've been reviewing on the channel day in and day out. And while I feel like some of the character designs are a little underwhelming, like Wim and Jod Na Na Wood, for me personally, are very underwhelming. Even Fern, I would say her design is a little underwhelming for me. I'm really excited, I gotta say. I'm really excited for Skeleton Crew. There was a point the other day where on my Blitz Bounties Instagram page, I had all 6 of the Skeleton Crew Black Series figures posed up. I took a picture and I threw the real Major Tom song, on the post. And I sat there and there was this deep feeling of enjoyment and I guess nostalgia, because if you didn't know, and I know I've mentioned this before, The Goonies is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's a movie I used to watch with my godfather, and it was one of his favorite movies of all time, and so I have a deep connection with the Goonies movie. There's something about Skeleton Crew that's giving me a Goonies vibe. I know it's intentional, but deeper than that. Like, I feel like I have this weird connection to this show and to these characters. I hope that feeling sticks with me as I go through this show, because I really want to enjoy it. I really want, speaking of fun, I really want a fun Star Wars project. I can sit back, I can watch it, and we can have a good time. There's been some new Skeleton Crew news as well that I want to talk about real quick. There's an early screening going on. The first 2 episodes are now coming out a day earlier than they were supposed to. Now it's Monday, December 2nd, I believe, at 6 p.m. West Coast time, so 9 p.m. Eastern here in the States. I'm just checking my phone real quick to make sure that's a Monday. Yeah, Monday the 2nd, and then all subsequent episodes will be on Tuesdays. So the show's going to be 8 episodes. The first 2 episodes come out on December 2nd, and then every subsequent episode comes out on the following, Tuesday of every week. I'm personally looking forward to the show, like I said, and they've got some screenings going on in some local movie theaters. Hybrid Toy Reviews is going to the one in Robinson, which is in the Pittsburgh area, to get me another mini poster. He did pick me up a mini poster from the Acolyte screening, which I have on my door here to my room, and I'm very excited to get the Skeleton Crew poster. Thank you, Hybrid. I appreciate you. And I don't know, man. There's something about this show that I have this weird excitement for that I feel like I shouldn't have. I don't know if it's because I'm a little hurt from some of the other releases recently, being I get excited for them and then they're a little underwhelming. But I don't know, man. I think it's just because there's so much. I can feel the infectious passion and enthusiasm for this project. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they're super, overly marketing the whatever English that is, marketing the show super hard like they did with the Acolyte. This show is just it's a Star Wars project. It's coming out. We hope you guys like it. We enjoyed making it. And I'm like, cool. This is the kind of energy that I want to have towards Star Wars. Not, I really wanted to, bring in my personal feelings on these social issues into this project. Like, I'm all for messaging in Star Wars. Everybody says Star Wars has always been political. And I'm all for that. But when that takes precedence over the narrative and the storytelling and the characters end up getting lost in the story and I have no connection to any of the characters because they were so focused on what messaging they were trying to put into the show or the movie or whatever, that's where you lose me. Just me personally as a fan. And I talk to so many people. I love so much about the Acolyte series. It's just always the one I jump to because it's the newest one and it's freshest in my head. But I never got a connection to May or Osha. Never. I wanted to. They would almost have me so many times, but we were so focused on other things in the plot, and other things going on that every time I was this close to caring about these characters, it was ripped from me because, we had a comedic moment or we had something else happen or, it was just, for me, it just didn't do it for me. And I wish that I could appreciate those characters as much as I liked some of the other characters in the show. Because those other characters were allowed to have those moments. That's what I think it was. Anyways. But again, final thoughts on this. I'm very excited for Skeleton Crew. Please, please, please. I'm so cautiously optimistic. Please let it be good. I want a banger. I want a banger Star Wars series that I can just watch and have fun with. That gives me those vibes, and it seems like, again, the guys that the team that wrote this, they seem like they've done a really phenomenal job. As far as Ahsoka goes, I think that we need to just cool our jets. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. Just know that from this channel, if I'm talking about something, whether it's on the Blitzcast or on a weekly topical video, just know that everything that I'm making is coming from a place of genuine feeling that it's legitimate content, legitimate articles, legitimate sources. And if I ever talk about something that ends up being fake news or things like that, I will address it on a subsequent episode or a subsequent video, or even post a comment on a video and let you guys know, hey, this ended up being fake or wrong, just keeping you guys in the loop. Because when it comes to Star Wars, there's a lot of misinformation that goes on, and it can really hurt conversations about the franchise that we have as fans because we get caught up in the drama. And there are YouTube channels that love the drama, and because they make money off of the drama, because their YouTube channel is their main source of income. So they need to make drama so that people will click on their channel so they can make more money. And then we as the fandom, we suffer from it. I'm not pointing out anyone in particular, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. But yeah, on this channel, I'm just here to talk about Star Wars. I'm just a guy. I have a full-time job. I have a career. I got nothing, Star Wars is my passion aside from that, and that's what I enjoy. So, Ahsoka Season 2. This is what we know. Let's just, chalk it all up to what we know for sure. Season 2 is coming. It's probably going to be in 2026. Ray Stevenson's character, Baylan Skoll, has been recast. I'm not sure if we know by who yet. And Season 2 is probably going to be the ending of Ahsoka's story in case Season 3 or any subsequent projects involving Ahsoka are not greenlit. That's what we know. Anything else is not for sure. If you'd like to talk to me a little bit more, if you see an article, if you see something you're not sure if it's legit, shoot me a DM on any of my social media or join my Discord, because we're always sharing articles on the HoloNet channel of the Discord to talk about Star Wars and kind of discuss things. This is a shorter episode of the Blitzcast this week, just because, again, it's a holiday weekend by myself. There's not a lot for me to talk about. When I'm by myself, I can only talk about so much. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I covered all my bases. We've been getting some news recently. We've been getting some stuff coming out, and hopefully we can get excited for some Star Wars here next week, and not even it's like 3 days before Skeleton Crew comes out. So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you're enjoying the holiday weekend. Everybody drive safe if you're traveling. Everybody make sure that you are paying attention to the weather conditions in your area. We have literally like a foot of snow out here right now, so and it's still coming down. It's a whiteout outside, so just make sure, guys, that you're keeping yourself safe, keep your family safe. Be thankful for your loved ones. That's another thing I just want to point out, because I think sometimes we can get caught up and become complacent and not be appreciative of what we have, whether it's family, friends, communities, you name it. There are so many people out in this world that do not have any of that, and they are miserable. So appreciate the fact that you have someone in your life to complain about. Whether it be an uncle that you're not a fan of or things like that. I have uncles that I am a fan of. Shout out to Uncle Ange. But anyways, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, again, check all the links in the description below. And with that, guys, enjoy the holiday weekend. We'll talk next week for some Skeleton Crew, some Skibbity Crew, and we'll see you for the next one. May the Force be with you.